Hi everyone, I'm Angela from Reindeer Therapies and I'd like to invite you to another yoga session. This time it'll be on balancing the sacral chakra. This is the second chakra, it sits just below the belly button. It's a lovely, lively, vibrant orange colour, and this chakra is the seat of production and reproduction. It's also the centre of our creativity. It gives us the impetus to do things, to make things and make stuff happen. It's the centre of our ability to feel pleasure and to just feel joy in the things that we do in life. And it's also linked very, very closely to our emotions. So if you have any emotional blockages, or if you're not releasing emotions in a way that's healthy or sensible, then this can help you to just let those blockages flow away, because it's also to do with water and we want our emotions to flow nice and steadily, especially at the moment when things are a bit uncertain and our emotions may be a bit up and down. So we're going to be looking into hip openers, which are not as bad as they sound. Hip openers simply increase your flexibility and the range of movement in your hips, and we'll also be doing some work to loosen up the lower back, or the sacral area of the spine. As with the last video, if you have any injuries, take it nice and easy. If you are in a pose and you find that it's starting to be very uncomfortable, you experience any pain, by all means come out of the pose a little bit or come out of the pose completely and just join us again when you're ready. So let's begin. We'll just begin by breathing, by finding our breath. So we can take a nice relaxed cross-legged position, and we're lining up our shoulders over our hips, and we can close our eyes. And let's just begin to see what's happening with the breath. Is it coming in and out of the lungs easily? Is the breath shallow? Is the breath deep? And we can imagine the breath dropping all the way down into the hips as it comes in. And as it comes back up the spine, out of the nose, it brings with it any tension or anything you want to let go of. Let's just observe that happening for a couple more breaths. As we're working with a chakra that governs emotions, we're now going to take 3 breaths in through the nose and then sigh the breath out through the mouth to get rid of anything we don't need. So let's take a relaxed breath in through the nose. And let's sigh that out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose. And let's sigh that out through the mouth. Last one, in through the nose. And let's sigh all of that away. Good. Let's return to breathing normally. Easy, relaxed breathing in and out through the nose, all the way down into the hips, and all the way back up through the spine, out through the nose. Okay, so now let's stretch out the hands over the knees and we can open our eyes. Let's breathe in, reach up the hands, and then breathe out as we bring the hands to the heart. Let's breathe in as we open the arms wide, and breathe out as the hands come down again. Rooting from the tailbone, reaching up at the hands to breathe in, breathe out, hands to heart. Let's open out the arms wide as we breathe in and breathe out. Hands come down. Last one. Let's breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay, we're going to get straight into some work for the hips and the lower back. So let's lie down. Let's have the knees bent and let's have the feet mat width apart. Okay, we're going to keep our shoulders in line with our hips as we take a breath in. We then breathe out and let the legs fall over to the right. And then we breathe into center. We breathe out, legs fall to the left. As we breathe in, knees come up. Breathe out, knees to the side. Breathing in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Starting to work into the lower back to release the sacrum. So this time, bring the knees to the center. Let's bring the feet together. Let's shift the hips over to the left and bring the knees gently down to the right. Right hand can go on the left knee. The left arm can bend at the elbow, up at shoulder height. We can look up at the ceiling, or if it's comfortable, we can turn the head to the left. And let's take 5 breaths here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lovely. Let's breathe in. Let's bring the knees back to the center. Let's get the hips and shoulders in a line. Let's bring the feet hip width again. And as we breathe out, let's bring the knees to the right. Breathe in and let them drop to the left. Same thing again. Breathing in to lift the knees, breathing out to let them fall to the side. This time the knees come to the center. We bring the feet together, we bring the hips over to the right, and we just let the knees fall gently to the left. We can bend the right arm, elbow at shoulder height. Again, we can look up at the ceiling, or if the neck is comfortable, we can look over the right shoulder for 5 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lovely. So let's breathe in. Let's bring the knees back into the center. Let's get our shoulders lined up with our hips again. And we can begin to peel the feet off the floor so the knees are slowly coming down towards the ground. If you have a yoga block like this, or if you have a bolster or a firm cushion or pillow, then feel free to use that to help support your knees. You'll need 2, 1 for each side. Okay. So if your spine is arched, your lower back is arched, we're just going to bring the hips up towards the ribs a little bit, just so that we've got a nice neutral spine, and we're just keeping the lower back safe as we are in Supta Baddha Konasana, reclining goddess pose. We just allow the hips to relax as we breathe out. Take 5 breaths here. This can feel a bit intense because you're really opening the hip socket here, opening the hip joint. If it becomes too intense, then please just lift your knees a bit higher and support your legs. Okay, so 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lovely. So let's get the hands on the outside of the thighs And as you breathe in, let's bring the feet back down to the floor. Let's bring the knees together. And then again, let's step the feet hip width apart, mat width apart. And we can bring the hands actually to sit on the hips. We've just done a very, very deep hip opening exercise. So there may be a little bit of a feeling of emotional release, and that's okay. After this session, you may feel a little bit emotional. You may even cry a little bit. That might be a good thing, releasing emotions that have been stuck. All about release and relaxing. Good. So now let's bring the feet together. Let's roll over onto the right side and let's push up with our left hand. And let's come into our tabletop pose. So from tabletop, let's walk our hands forwards onto the knees and the elbows. And we're going to lie on our front. Okay, we're going to do locust pose. This is a really lovely pose for strengthening the lower back. If you have any injuries in the lower back, please take this nice and easy. So we can have our head on the floor, forehead on the floor. And again, we're having our hips tilted up towards our ribs so that we've got a nice, secure lower back. As we breathe in, we're going to raise the left leg, keeping the hip bones on the floor. And we breathe out to lower. And then again, we lift the right leg, keeping the hips on the floor, and we lower. This time we're going to breathe in, bring the navel into the spine, lift the left leg and the right arm, and lower. And again, navel to spine as we breathe in, right leg and left arm. Okay, let's do that a couple more times on each side. Breathing in, lifting opposite arm and leg, and lower. And breathe in, navel to spine, and lower. Breathe in, lift, and lower. The last one, and lower. So now you have the option of lifting both arms and both legs. If you don't want to do that, just continue with the alternate arm and leg. I'll give you a shout when you're ready to change. So let's take a good deep breath in. Lift both arms and both legs. We're here for 5 breaths. 1, 2. If you're doing alternate arms and legs, please lower that arm and leg and raise the other. 3, 4, and 5. Good. Let's lower that down. Excellent. So now let's bring the elbows in line with the shoulders. We're going to roll onto the left side and lift the right leg and see if we can bring the right toes to the floor. And let's roll back to the center. Roll to the right side, left toes over to the floor, loosening up the lower back. Let's roll onto the left, right toes to the floor, and come down. Onto the right side, left toes to the floor. This is the last one. Rolling to the left, right toes to the floor, and roll to the right with the left toes on the floor. Good. Let's come back to the center. Let's get our hands underneath our shoulders as we push ourselves up and then back into child's pose with the hips on the heels. And let's just reach forwards. Let's take 3 nice deep breaths here. Breathing deep into the lower back. Great. Let's come back into our tabletop pose now. So let's get our knees underneath our hips and our shoulders over our wrists. And we're just going to do some circles. If your knees are uncomfortable, you can tuck your toes under. That takes some of the pressure off. You can also roll up the back of your mat and put your knees on that to help cushion them a bit. Okay, let's go the other way. Loosening up the lower back. Well, let's come back into stillness. So let's walk the hands back to the knees. Use the thighs to help bring us upright. We're going to step the right foot forwards. Okay. So we're keeping the hips square to the front. We're going to lean forwards. We're coming into a low lunge. So let's get the knee over the ankle. And let's get the hips coming up towards the ribs a little bit. Feel a beautiful stretch in the right hip. Let's hold for 5. For 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lovely. So now let's straighten the front leg, lifting the toes off the floor, the whole foot off the floor. And let's come back. And let's lift and come back. Lift and lower and lift and lower. Now let's bring the right hand round. Let's walk the hands around so the fingertips are facing the front. Let's turn the left knee so that the toes are facing the back. Now let's bring the right foot forward so that the toes are in line with the left knee. And we can use our thighs to bring ourselves up again. We're going to breathe in as we raise the arm. And as we breathe out, we slide along the body. Let's breathe in, and let's reach to the other side. Let's breathe out as we come over to the right. And breathe in as we come to the left. Let's breathe out. Breathe in. And this time, let's stay on the right side. Shoulders are staying down. And we're reaching along the body, so we're not collapsing forwards and we're not arching backwards. Just imagine that you're reaching along the leg with the right side of your body. Good. And now let's breathe in. And let's bring the left hand down to the floor. Tap the right arm up in the air. And if it's comfortable, we can lift the right foot, toes pointing forwards. If your bum is pointing out, let's bring the hips up towards the ribs. And if it's very comfortable here, you can grab hold of your foot and again, keeping the hips forwards. For 2 and 3, lovely. So whichever version you took, let's release that now. And let's turn so that we are facing the other way. So let's come back into our tabletop. Let's walk the hands back up to the legs and come up. This time we're stepping the left foot forwards. So let's reach forwards, bringing the hips slightly up towards the ribs for a beautiful stretch in the right hip. This time we hold for 5. 1, 2, keeping the spine beautifully long. 3, 4, and 5. Great. So let's straighten the left leg and fold forwards again. Straighten the leg and come forwards. For 3, 4, and 5. Lovely. So now let's bring the left fingers into the centre. So all the fingers are facing forwards. Bring the right knee to face the front, right toes face the back, left toes line up with the right knee. Let's bring ourselves up. Let's breathe in and breathe out as we reach along the left leg. Let's breathe in as we reach to the other side. Breathe out to the right, left leg. Breathe in. Breathe out. breathe in, and this time let's stay as we reach over to the right. Just reaching along the leg. Lovely, let's breathe in as you come over to the right side. Again, we can stay here, or if you wish to lift the foot, again, we keep the hips forwards. If you want to, you can grab hold of the ankle. We're keeping our hips forwards for 1, 2, and 3. Lovely. So now let's release that leg. Come back down to the ground, whatever pose you were in. And let's come back into a child pose for a bit of a rest. We'll just take 3 breaths here before we move into our main sequence. Okay, so being aware of your own limitations. Don't let your ego push you into something that you're not quite happy with. Let's tuck our toes under. And let's push our hips up and back into our downward dog. And let's just walk that out. Coming up and down on the toes, padding out the feet. And then let's come into stillness. So we have our hands pushing down into the floor. We have our back and our arms straight, and our knees can be bent. So we need a good bit of support for this part. So imagine that your hands are trying to open the lid of a jar and it's really, really stuck. So you're really, really pushing the hands into the floor, so that you're trying to turn each hand inwards, so towards the thumb. Okay, so we've got lots and lots of pressure in the fingertips and the tip of the thumb and in the base of the hand. So really spread the weight fully throughout the hand. Okay, so we're going to keep our shoulders and our hips in the center as we lift up the right leg. This is called split dog, keeping everything in the center. If it's comfortable, we can stack the hips from here. So the right hip sits over the left hip and the right foot is dangling somewhere by the left hip. Okay. So now let's bring that all the way forwards. We're going to take the right foot, heel, toe to the edge of the mat. The left hand line up shoulder with wrist. The right hand is going to be sitting with the fingers on the inside of the knee. If it's comfortable, we can roll to the outside of the right foot. If not, keep the foot on the floor. Let's breathe in to lengthen. And as we push down into the knee, into the top of the leg, we can turn the torso to face the right leg. We can bring the right hand to the right hip. We can even reach the right hand up in the air, keeping the shoulder down for 3, 2, and 1. Let's bring the foot and the hand down to the floor. Let's get the left hand on the left hip. Let's breathe in as we lengthen out the spine. And we breathe out as we twist towards the left. We can even reach up and bring the shoulder down for 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Let's bring the left hand down to the floor. Heel, toe, the right foot back into the center. Let's get the hands on the floor to frame the foot. And let's bring the left foot up. So if you have a block or something to hold, to help you balance with, then please get hold of that. We're coming into half moon. So we're going to straighten up the right leg as much as possible without locking the knee. Keep the knee slightly bent. We're going to lift up the left leg and then turn the hip, so the side of the foot is facing downwards. Okay. We can bring the left hand to the left hip, and if it's comfortable, you can lift up. If you're going to keep your balance, you can look up. So I am not looking up. We hold for 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Let's bring the hand down to the floor or the block. So the left toes are now pointing downwards and the hips are both pointing down towards the floor. We can have right hand on right hip. And let's breathe in to lengthen and breathe out as we turn, to face the right hand side. We can keep the hand on the hip, or we can lift up the right arm for 3, 2, and 1. Great. Let's bring the right hand down to the floor and let's release the left foot down to the floor. Let's have all 10 toes pointing forwards. And we can have a slight bend in the right leg, so we don't want to be hanging on the joint and pushing the joint backwards. If you're hypermobile, so if your knees do go backwards, then it's always a good idea to have a slight bend in the knee. So let's have the right hand on the right hip, moving the hips over to the right, the left rather, to keep them square to the front as we lengthen the spine. As we breathe in, then we breathe out and we fold over the front leg for 3, 2, and 1. Great. Let's breathe in as we start to come up. And we can place the hands on the lower leg and stay here as we come into our revolved triangle. You can use a block again if you wish, and put the left hand on the little toe side of the right foot. Then the right hand comes to the hip, right hip, and we lengthen the spine. As we breathe in, if it's comfortable, we can lift up the right arm to the sky for 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Let's bring the top hand down. If you're using a block, pop it out of the way. Turn the right toes and then the left toes to face the front. And we're just going to do a nice little turn so that the left toes are now facing the left. Let's step that back into our downward dog. If you wish to take child's pose for a moment, then feel absolutely free. And take 3 deep breaths here. 1, 2, and 3. So if you're in child's pose, please hop back up into downward dog. So let's really ground our hands into the floor again. Imagine you're opening the jaw that's really, really stuck. So the inside of your elbows pointing towards each other. Okay, hips and shoulders level and in the center. Let's lift up the left leg and let's stack the right and left hips. Let's hold for 1, 2, and 3. Great. Let's bring the left foot forwards. Let's bring the right knee down. So the left foot, heel, toe to the side of the mat. Let's bring the right hand forwards. Let's have the left fingers on the inside of the knee. And let's breathe in as we lengthen and breathe out as we twist. If it's comfortable, we can roll to the outside of the left foot. Hand can come to the hip for an even deeper twist. Or we can reach all the way up into the sky, shoulders down for 1, 2, and 3. Lovely. Hand and foot come back to the floor. Let's bring the right hand to the right hip. Let's turn as we breathe in. And if we wish, we can lift the right arm up in the air for 3, 2, and 1. Great. Let's bring the right hand down. Left foot, heel toe, back to the centre. Let's frame the left foot with the fingertips or the hands. And let's bring ourselves up. So we're standing on the left foot. We're coming into our crescent moon, our half moon again. So let's start to lift up the right leg, keeping a slight bend in the left leg. Let's bring the right hand to the right hip. Turn the right leg so that the inside of the foot is pointing downwards. And we can lift up the right arm all the way into the sky. For 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Let's bring the hand down. Let's turn the right leg so that the toes are pointing downwards and both hip bones are pointing downwards. And we can still keep a slight bend in the left leg as left hand comes to left hip. Lengthen out the spine. And then if it's comfortable, we can raise the hand, the left hand, all the way up to the sky. 1, 2, and 3. Let's bring all of that down, hand and foot. Let's bring the fingertips to frame the foot again. And this time left hand comes to left hip to bring the hips into a lovely square shape pointing forwards. So let's take a breath in with a slight bend in the front leg, and then we breathe out as we reach forwards over the leg. We're aiming to bring the head to the knee. That may not happen today, and that's fine. For 2 and 3. So if you have a block, feel free to use your block again on the little toe side of the foot. Let's bring ourselves up a little bit. So hands on the lower leg. And we can bring the right hand to the little toe side of the left foot on the floor or on the block. And the left hand goes to the left hip to keep the hips square. As we breathe in to lengthen the spine and we breathe out to twist. Okay, and now we can reach the hand up, left hand up if that's comfortable. For 3, 2, and 1. Great, so let's bring the left hand down. Let's get the block out of the way. And let's slowly turn the toes and the fingertips to face the front. We can bring the heels in and we come down into a nice squat. I'm not going to stay here very long, don't worry. So let's now come all the way down. Okay, so you can take child's pose for a couple of breaths if you wish. I'm going to talk you through the next part, which is quite a feisty hip opener. Okay, so it's called frog pose and it's used in yin yoga. If you're in child's pose and you don't like the look of frog, or you start frog and it doesn't suit you, then please go back into child's pose because that's a lovely alternative. In yin yoga, it's called tadpole. So let's start in our nice and familiar tabletop. And very simply, we just bring the knees wide as is comfortable for your hips. Then we do our right angles. So we have a right angle between the hip and the knee, between the knee and the ankle, and we have the inside of each foot flat on the floor. Okay. So now that we've got our hips in a position that's comfortable, we can come down onto our elbows. Keep them about shoulder width apart. Right, if your back has got a big dent in it, bring the hips up towards the ribs. So we're protecting the lower back in this pose. And if you're coming forwards, imagine that you're sitting back, okay? I know, I'm not making it easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be a hip opener. So there will be some discomfort. I promise you there will be some discomfort. Just play with that. Okay, that's what this chakra is about. It's about play. It's also about knowing limits as well, how far you can go. So we're going to take 10 breaths here. Anytime you want to come out of this pose, bring your big toes together and then just walk your knees in together and squeeze the thighs together and then pop back into child's pose. So, holding for 10 breaths for 1, 2. Remembering to sit back and keeping the hips up towards the ribs so that the lower back is safe. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Well done, whatever you did. So now let's nice and slowly bring the big toes together. You may need to shuffle the knees in towards each other to get your toes together. Let's come up onto one hand and then the other hand, and then just keep bringing the knees in towards each other. So we're doing our usual tabletop, but our legs are together. Okay, and now let's squeeze the thighs together. Really, really squeeze them together. We've done a massive hip opener there. And so we're doing a nice counter pose to ease the hips. Okay, that's lovely. So now let's just sit back and we can bring the legs around. We're going to come into our Dandasana or staff pose. Just having the legs straight out in front with the toes pointing upwards, maybe a little bit towards the shins. Let's have our hands either side of the hips. And let's push down with the hands as we lengthen the spine. Let's hold for 5 breaths. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's take a nice breath in and reach forwards. And then let's come up. And then let's bring the hands down as we breathe out this time. Let's breathe in as the arms come up and out as they come forwards. Let's breathe in, the hands come up and out as they come forwards. This time we breathe in, the hands come up. We breathe out, the hands come forwards and they stay on the floor. If you can hook your first 2 fingers around your big toes, that's great. We're just going to bring the head down towards the legs. Always moving from the hips. So if your forward fold is this, that's perfect. If your forward fold is much further down, again, that's perfect. Just make sure you're moving from the hips. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. So let's breathe in as we come up. Now we can lie down. Let's have our knees together. Let's take a breath in, and as we started, we're just going to roll the legs over to the right. Again, we can bend up the left arm at the elbow, shoulder height. Just stay here for 3 breaths. 1, 2, and 3. Good. Let's breathe in, bring the knees back to the centre. And let's shuffle over and bring the legs over, the knees over to the left. Again, we can bend up the right arm and hold for 3, 2, and 1. Great, let's breathe in, let's come back to centre. Let's get our shoulders and hips in alignment. And let's breathe in, bring the right knee into the chest. Let's release that down to the floor, the foot. And let's bring the left knee into the chest. Okay, now nice and carefully, let's bring both knees into the chest. We can hold on to the shins as we do some nice circles to release the back. And let's go the other way. And come back to the centre. So the last thing we're doing, let's bring the knees out so they're shoulder width apart. So we can stay here, or if you're comfortable, you can have your hands on your thighs and start to lift the feet up in the air. I promise you this is a yoga pose. You can have your hands on the outside of the shins if that's comfortable, or you can reach through, grab the outside of the feet and bring the knees aiming down towards the floor. Okay, so if your tailbone has come off the floor, bring it down. Let's see if we can keep the spine on the floor from the top of the head all the way down. This is called happy baby because this chakra is about play and enjoyment and a bit of fun, a bit of silliness. So if you want, you can have a little roll from side to side. And then we can come into stillness, just allowing the hips to release. The lower back is on the floor. So we can release the hands. We can lower the feet down, bring the knees together. And we can slide the feet out so they are mat width apart. And we can get ready for our Shavasana, our relaxation. So make any adjustments you need. If you find you've got a bit of an arch in your lower back, just shuffle your bum a bit further down towards your feet. And just let the feet fall outwards so the little toes are pointing down towards the floor. And if you wish, as we've been working on the sacral chakra today, instead of having the hands out to the side, you can just pop them over your hip bones. Entirely up to you. So let's take 3 deep breaths again, in and out through the nose. Letting the body melt into the mat. And as we were working with the sacral chakra about releasing emotions, again we can breathe in through the nose and we can sigh out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose and sigh out through the mouth. Last time, in through the nose and sigh out through the mouth. Good. So please stay lying down. I'm going to sit up and just talk you through the relaxation. Okay. So let's breathe in to the lower leg on the right and let's breathe out. Let's breathe into the whole of the right leg and breathe out. Breathe in to the left lower leg and breathe out into the whole of the left leg and breathe out. Breathing into the whole of the hip area, the hips, the buttocks, the lower back. And breathe out, letting all of that go. Let's breathe into the abdomen and breathe out. Breathing into the ribs and the chest and breathe out. Breathing into the lower back and breathe out. Into the upper back and the shoulders and breathe out. Breathing into the whole of the right arm from the fingertips right up to the shoulder. And let all that go as you breathe out. Breathing into the whole of the left arm from fingertips to the shoulder. And breathe out. Breathing into the throat and the neck. Releasing any tension there as we breathe out. Breathing into the back of the head, the forehead and the face. And breathe out. Let's breathe into the whole of the body, allowing the body to melt into the mat, releasing completely as we breathe out. Let's take a couple more deep breaths into the whole body and releasing from the whole body. Good. Now begin to become aware of where your body makes contact with the floor. Let's become aware of air where it touches our skin. Become aware of sounds inside and outside the room. Let's gently wiggle the fingers and the toes. Let's bring the feet together. Bend up the knees, place the feet on the floor. Let's bend the right arm up and roll over to the right side. Take a couple of breaths here. And when you're ready, let's push up on the left hand. And let's come back into seated. Okay, so let's breathe in, rooting and reaching, and breathe out, hands to heart. Let's breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Thank you very much for practicing with me today in this sequence for the sacral chakra. I hope it's helped and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.